Hey, everybody. Teresa Youngstrom with Memory Care with Teresa Youngstrom. It's always my pleasure to be here with you. And today we're going to take it back to the basics. And we're going to talk about, what is dementia? What is dementia? Because there's some people that need to start right there. Start with baby steps and start with square one. For those of you that are new to the podcast, I'm Teresa Youngstrom. I'm a seasoned registered nurse and been studying this because my mom came down with dementia a while back. And I tell you what, it was a decade of decline. And even as a seasoned nurse, I found myself at a loss many times as to why she did what she did and why she got angry at me and other people and my sweet father and those things. And so we had a lot to learn. This old nurse had a lot to learn. And I'm humbly here to tell you that we learn a lot from my mistakes. And so it's always a process. I really feel like, goodness gracious, doctors and scientists are still figuring out dementia. We have more than 120 diagnoses, but they're just learning more all the time. But even if you don't know your diagnosis, there are right and wrong ways to go about caring for another individual who's having experiencing brain change. And it's very frightening for them to not have capacity or not have control or to maybe they have fear or anxiety. And so it's my pleasure to come in and try and share some ideas with you. And if that helps you and your family member, all the better. That's why we do what we do here. Our goal is just to keep getting this information out to those who are struggling, like I was. And I needed resources. And thankfully, I found Teepa Snow. She's amazing in North Carolina, and she was still is a huge mentor for me and the ongoing, education that I spend reading and watching and listening and keep trying to find better ways to help you understand why people with dementia, why they do what they do, and how we can come alongside, join them on their journey individually and care for them in that way and help them feel at peace in wherever they are in this journey. So let's go ahead. I did put a PowerPoint together for you guys today, um, so that we can move forward and you'll have some resources. And so, of course, this will be on YouTube, Spotify. It'll be on the website, guys. The web manager's fabulous and he will pluck this and put it right on the website the day that it goes live. So, let's get started. So we'll talk about what is dementia. We're going to talk about what are the symptoms, who's at risk, and then how you can help, because those things are vitally important. So what is dementia? It can be very confusing because is it Alzheimer's? People ask me frequently, is dementia Alzheimer's? Well, dementia is really the collection of symptoms. Dementia is not officially a diagnosis. What's that? Yeah, it's not officially a diagnosis. We start having symptoms, and we're learning more and more about symptoms, and that whatever's going on in the brain to cause us to not be able to function at 100%, these symptoms, it might be, well, we're going to go over the symptoms, but basically, you start getting some symptoms once we have about, 5 of these symptoms that we can't cover for, like, we can't say, "Oh, yeah, I forgot, I didn't mean to say that. Oh, yeah, I meant to drive there today and not go over there." And, we can cover for a while, but eventually we can't cover, and hopefully our loved ones will help us seek help, see the medical doctor, rule out what may look like a dementia, but is not, and then help get us some help. So, I just want to start off telling you that dementia is really the collection of symptoms. Your person's symptoms will look different than mine, than my mom, or than mine will if that day comes. But dementia is really a collection of symptoms, and it usually means that I want to zip ahead. Well, maybe we won't zip ahead. Okay. So, if you'll make this slide big so they can see it well. Like I said, dementia is the umbrella term, and that's really the different symptoms. But as you can see under there, we've got different diagnoses. And so you got Alzheimer's, frontotemporal, we got Lewy body, vascular, and the more we learn more about Parkinson's and how probably 50% of those individuals develop a Parkinsonian type dementia, but closely related to Lewy body. There's just so much to learn, and there are other illnesses, other diagnosis that can give us symptoms. And so it can be very confusing, but I just want to simplify it for you and let you know that we still have to come alongside, even if we never figure out the diagnosis. Then we're still going to do comfort care and symptom management, aren't we? Because that's how we care for somebody. And we're going to do it on a personalized basis. So let's review the symptoms because it is important to review the symptoms. And this will not be the be all end all list either, because guess what? There are your person's symptoms will look different than mine. But memory loss seems to be the most prominent one. It's more short term than long term, but it can vary. And it's interesting that some people in the moment can seem like they're doing really great, and people will get false hope saying, "Hey, I talked to her today and she was really good." But then you know what? If she doesn't remember tomorrow that she talked to you today, then chances are we do have something going on, and that hippocampus probably isn't working as efficiently as it should. And because the hippocampus should be kind of sticky in there, and those ideas and episodes and events that happen today should be lodged in our long term memory overnight when we sleep. And so that's when it can I wanna say fake us out, but it can, and you'll think, "Oh, they're doing better." But it just is that in the moment, they're pretty good and they're managing things pretty well, but really the short-term memory is not working effectively. Getting lost is another common thing. You might have someone who meant to go to the bank, but somehow they ended up at the grocery store. Their autopilot took them right to the grocery store. And, have you ever done that before? Like, you were on autopilot and in your mind, you're thinking about something, or you might be on the phone in the car. Uh-oh. But next thing you know, you're headed to work and it's Saturday and you're like, "What am I doing?" And so is that dementia? I would say no, that's not dementia, but it does worry people that they think it might be a dementia, but that's not a true, diagnosis. We're gonna make mistakes, guys. These brains, they're only so good, and we're getting older, and as we age, you know what? It gets more and more difficult to hang on to everything, hang on to all the thoughts, and you might find yourself in your 40s writing everything down. Maybe you need Post-it notes or legal pads, or, of course, we got our phones with the calendars and everything, but the Franklin planners were popular years back. And so we had to implement techniques to maintain everything that was going on just because our brains are in a state of decline. But that doesn't mean we have a dementia. Okay, you got it. Anxiety, depression, hallucination, those can be symptoms, but depression in itself really is treatable. So it's not technically a symptom of depression. You can have it in addition to brain failure and your depression. And anxiety, well, sure. I mean, if I'm not thinking great and I can't remember where I'm supposed to be today, that's going to make me anxious. So who would we be surprised that we might have some anxiety? Hallucinations, that kinda goes along with Lewy body tends to have, hallucinations, and or could be medication driven, that a certain medication's making me hallucinate. But you can have hallucinations with other diagnosis, but we might see hallucinations. They might think someone is there that you can't see. I've had individuals talking to people that I can't see. That was kinda crazy, but it was a real thing and they weren't fearful, and so I didn't feel the need to interrupt things because they were enjoying someone who actually had passed, and they were having a conversation. They introduced me and wanted me to join in, and I just said, "No, I don't want to interrupt, but thank you so much," and went about my night shift work when I was working one night, and a lady was having a conversation with people in the dark that I couldn't see, but that was okay. Unable to perform a simple task. Maybe grandma always made that apple pie from scratch, and for some reason, it just doesn't come together now, and she's having more trouble. It's one thing to have to pull out the recipe, but if it's completely off base, that would be a bigger, red flag for me. So unable to perform simple tasks. It may be things as simple as, well, not as simple, but it may be things like doing your taxes or balancing your checkbook, but I can still dress myself and I still can shower. I still can feed myself. And so maybe some of those basic ADLs I can still do, but some of those other ones that are harder have become more difficult. Maybe I need help with those. Could that be early signs? It could. It could be. It could be early symptoms. Let's go back to the list. And so confusion as the evening hours approach, we do see that. What do you call it? That's right, sundowning. We do see sundowning with some forms of dementias. I usually try and get ahead of the darkness and turn on the lights ahead of the darkness if you can. Maybe even implement a nap in the afternoon to see if then the evening goes better. You're going to have to try things. There are some people, if they sleep during the day, buddy, they're not going to sleep at night, and that would be a mistake. But for some individuals, adding a nap in the afternoon is just the ticket to help them be um, better through the evening hours. I know that as my mom progressed through her dementia, and I have to call it dementia because we never did get a diagnosis officially. It got to the point where she was not going to go to the doctor or do any of the testing to figure out exactly what was causing her brain failure. But we did symptom management and we did comfort care. But she definitely had some sundowning, and she could be the most difficult person with my dad. So God bless you, the main caregivers out there, because the target's really on your back. And this whole situation will be hardest. Well, it'll be hardest probably on the individual, but hardest then on the person taking care of them, the primary caregivers, because you guys sometimes can't catch a break. And depending on their symptoms and what kind of dementia is going on, they can be very difficult, even verbally abusive to those people closest to them. And it really can be the disease talking. So I can definitely teach you some great techniques on how to get around that, how to avoid that, how to keep the peace with someone going through this. And you may even have to bring in help and let someone else shower her because she's not going to let you shower her anymore. But did you know that they're likely to be friendlier to a stranger? I know, crazy, right? But if you ask them if they need a caregiver, they may say no. But if we can get a technique and get help in to help you, you'll be surprised at how cooperative they might be with someone if you handle it properly, if the approach is right, you set this up right, it could go very well for you. And so we got to pick our battles with this, guys. And you caregivers, you really do so much. And so the family caregiver or the individual, the personal caregiver, whether it's a spouse or a daughter, the job is hard and is the days are long, and so we have to make sure you have support. And just can I tell you this straight up? You will eventually bring in help or they'll go somewhere else and they'll reside somewhere else, okay? And your relationship changes a little, but that's okay. You don't sacrifice your life, all right? And that's really what it can come down to. You can get sick, have a heart attack, have a stroke, it's just so trying and long and hard as they decline and need eventually 24/7 care. And so we have to make good choices, but we either have to bring in help or they have to go somewhere else. Okay, that's just how it works. Let's go back to our slide. Declining social skills or social interactions. As long as they are appropriate, going to an exercise class or going to church or going to, bridge club or whatever it is that they do, um, then let's keep doing that. Let's keep them active as long as we can. But if they get to a point where they're fearful, and they're afraid and they don't wanna go, then we'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it. But they will have declining social skills. Some are aware and some are not aware that they have declining social skills. Defensive, never wrong, and always the victim. Some of these individuals will develop that attitude. We see something called anosognosia, and if you want more information on that, you can check out podcast 18 during season one. And I'll give you 30 minutes on anosognosia. But those individuals don't have awareness of their own disease. And so they think they're the smartest one in the room. They think you're wrong and they're right. As a matter of fact, they're always the victim. And they're paranoid, suspicious. And it can be really tough until you learn how to come alongside and how to love them through this a different way and accommodate their disease. I mean, listen, if they developed something else, if they had broken legs, you would accommodate that, right? if, there's a stroke and part of our body doesn't work right, we accommodate those things and we come alongside and we love people through that. But with dementia, the hard part is we can't always see it. And so all we see is them being offensive to us and them being difficult and maybe rude or inappropriate, using colorful words that are hurtful. But that can be the disease just talking. And so we can give you lots of great ideas and techniques how to come alongside and allow them to progress in their disease and their brain failure, at the same time helping you maintain relationship with them, and how to accept and agree, how to not startle, just some real basic, really good techniques on how you can still care for this person and love on this person and not be part of the problem, but part of the solution. And that's what I want to help teach you, is how to be part of the solution. So, paranoid, suspicious, like I said, that kind of goes with what's above. But in the evening hours, that whole sundowning thing, we can be more paranoid and more suspicious. And so we really have to learn to accept and agree and go with their flow. Teepa talks about validation, de escalation. Validation just means that I allow you to be right even when you're wrong. What's that? I know you got to practice, but it's someone's yelling at you that you did something that you didn't do. You had no part of it. But in that moment, they're accusing you of doing it. And let me tell you, you can't argue with a broken brain. Just don't do it. Okay. It's no avail. And it might damage your relationship with this person that I know ultimately you love. And so, what we want to do is accept and agree and do what we can to validate their position. You know what? That may mean that I have to go along with your complaining about whatever is wrong that you're saying I did, and even apologize for it. Oh my gosh, that shouldn't have happened. I was completely out of line. I shouldn't have done that. What was I thinking? My goodness. Wow, I need to work on things. Thank you for letting me know. Yeah, that shouldn't have happened. I'm really sorry about that. You know what? Let me go get you some iced tea. I'm just very sorry that happened. Oh, you know what? I think we could go on the porch and visit for a little bit. Watch the bird feeder. That might be fun. And so I may see what I can do to come alongside. I'm going to accept and agree. I'm going to apologize if needed. And once I see the energy start to come down, de-escalation, then I'm going to see what I can do to move you physically or emotionally to another place. This time it was emotionally and, well, physically. I wanted to see if you wanted to go on the porch and we'll watch the bird feeder and enjoy a cup of tea. So paranoid and suspicious can be really tough, but we do have some great techniques to come alongside. How about wandering and trouble sleeping? There are some individuals, Lewy body is one of those typical having trouble sleeping, and most individuals end up getting separate beds as that progresses. They tend to act out their dreams too, and so they might be kicking or punching in the bed in the middle of the night, and so we have to be careful of that, and we'll make good choices as things change. Um, but just sleep can be really tough, and you got to be really careful of the sleep meds that are out there. The Benadryls and the PMs; those are not good for our brains. As a matter of fact, there aren't a lot of great sleep meds that are good for our brains. You really need to consult your neurologist or your gerontologist or someone who is specializing in brain care to find out what we can do. But maybe adding some exercise, maybe even just some simple chair exercises, some leg lifts, maybe playing a game of I don't know, tennis with a beach ball, just something to add some physical activity, monitoring our diets, not doing caffeine in the evening. There's so many other things we can do, but typically in America, we reach for the pill. And I really would love to steer people away from that, especially when we already have challenges with our brains, because sometimes we complicate things. And just keep in mind that all medications have side effects. Let me say that again. All medications have side effects. Absolutely. So we have to weigh out the benefits and the risk of certain pills that we're adding to the concoction of meds that our person living with dementia is taking. And so we have to be careful of that. And so it's good to occasionally evaluate what meds we're on at this point. And you know what? Go off the ones, talk to your doctor. I can't tell you to do that. Go off the medications if your doctor agrees that aren't doing anything, or if you are experiencing side effects, negative side effects, or if there's really no help at all. Just adding and adding more medications is not really to your person's advantage. And we can get hallucination from the medication. We can get upset stomach, constipation, all kinds of things, irregular heartbeat, anxiety, and the list goes on. And so just be cautious in this era of wanting a pill. And we did just put out a podcast a couple weeks back about isn't there a pill, talking about this thing, this brain change, and can't we just take a pill to fix it? And it was really educational. So you want to check that out. But there's real no pill to fix it. But there are other things we can do. There are other things we can try and do. Get some fresh air. If they're able to get physical activity, let's do it. We need good sleep. So how do we provide for good sleep? Do we is playing music, an instrumental music, something familiar in their room? Does that help with their anxiety or their challenge to not want to go home when they are concerned about where they are in the middle of the night? Do we need a nightlight? How can we try some other things that don't come from the pharmacy, to try and come alongside and love our person through this. Okay. So unable to follow directions, and the list just goes on. But before we move further, you have to know that there are treatable conditions. And so mental health issues like depression is technically treatable. Um, and of course, I'm not excited for you to run out and jump on another medication, but handled wisely, maybe we could help treat their depression. Okay. How about thyroid disorder? So if your thyroid dies, guys, you are going to look like you have dementia. Okay. But it is treatable. It is treatable. So technically that's not dementia. Medication complications can make us look like we have dementia. Do you know there's something called just a location dementia, where when grandma falls and we have to put her in the hospital and then we move her to a rehab and then she starts looking like she has dementia. Well, guess what? Dementia doesn't come on in 2 weeks. It doesn't work like that. This is a chronic, debilitating, persistent brain failure, but it doesn't come on like a urinary tract infection. But you change someone's location, you can get them confused. And then you add on a little Ambien or some sleeping med at night, and then you add on something else. My goodness. How about we just add a caregiver at the bedside just to reassure that person? And don't have them sit at the head of the bed. Have them sit near the bottom of the bed where grandma can see them when they wake up. And they can reassure them where they are and that they're okay and that they're going to be there with them. I would recommend having someone with your loved ones in the hospital these days. Have someone with them in case they get confused. Um, and whether you hire someone or get a family member, I highly recommend that. But they can look like they have a dementia, but just remember, if they were clear-minded 2 days ago, they don't have dementia now, all right? They don't have dementia now. That's not how it works. Sensory changes like hearing or vision challenges can make us look like we have dementia. I knew a gentleman who thought that he had dementia because he wasn't retaining what happened at the meeting that day at work. And so told him, "Go to the doctor, rule out the treatable things, but then go get your hearing and your vision checked." And it was a hearing thing. Ta-da! That's always a happy ending because we can get hearing aids. And he was back. He was back 100%. That's just like, the best ending there, that it was not a dementia. But even if it is, you know what? We're gonna figure it out. We're gonna come alongside. We're gonna love him through this. But yeah, I just really want you to figure out the treatable things. Urinary tract infection is the most prevalent thing that when I worked in the ER years ago, Life Squad coming in with mental status change, first thing we did was get a urine specimen, check that to see if maybe we had a UTI. And I would say 50% of the mental status change runs, they might call it, cerebrovascular accident or a CVA, but 50% of those squads came in and we determined that it was a urinary tract infection. So that's how common it is in older adults. And so we got to think about hygiene. We got to think about drinking enough fluid and not too much nowadays. They don't want you to drink too much fluid and overhydrate yourself. Okay. Let's go back to the slides. All right. So, new chronic conditions like diabetes. So, yeah, so we're hearing more about type 2 diabetes being a precursor for some dementia. We're seeing some signals there, and you have people calling dementia type 3 diabetes too. And so that's kind of scary. So, listen, diets and exercise, so important. Sleep, all these things are so important to keeping you healthy and keeping you away from this D word. All right. It's too easy to zip through fast food, but it's so hard on your body. All the carbs out there. And you know what? They really are just um, it's irresistible. They're addicting, the carbs that are in our diets. And so I tell people you need to shop the outer the perimeter of your grocery store and and buy the foods that are fresh food, the fruits and vegetables, and meats and eggs and things like that. And let's make sure your diet you know, is full of the good stuff that's gonna help you. You're getting enough fiber and you're getting, great nutrition and vitamins and from your food, good nutrition, because the fast food thing has just gone crazy, and we're just seeing more and more health issues, especially in America, as time goes by and as we're finding ourselves just eating more and more fast foods. And the carb thing is just, it's out of control, and diabetes is out of control. So, truth about all dementia is at least two parts of your brain show evidence of decline. Okay. Currently, no treatment. There are some drugs out there that they're working on. We got trials going on all over the place, but we haven't found something to actually stop brain cells from being killed. Working on the plaques and tangles thing, um, prevent brain bleeds and things like that. But it's just hugely it's a challenge, and we're really just the science has gone wild on experiments and trying to find the answers to these brain problems and get a handle on this, and I'm hopeful, right? And Teepa says until there's a cure, there's care, and that's exactly what we're going to do. But unfortunately, dementia is terminal. Okay, it eventually will take your life, if you don't have something else, another comorbidity, whether it's heart disease or whether it's something else going on that can cause the trouble. So who's at risk? Well, we're all at risk. Technically, our age is our greatest risk factor right now. Okay. People want to know, is it genetic? Is it this? Is it that? But really, it's really your age. Dementia is not inevitable, though. Everybody's not going to get it. But they think in America, statistics I'm hearing, and they vary, but maybe 25% of people over age 65 have some symptoms. And, sometimes people get mild cognitive impairment, and I think they really just aren't sure whether it's a true dementia or if your brain's getting older and the files are too big, and, you're having challenges keeping up with all the information. But sometimes that goes nowhere, mild cognitive impairment. There is a lot of it. But the stat that I saw was once you're past age 85, probably 50% of people still alive in America probably have symptoms of dementia. So we need to take care of our brains. Again, I said this before, didn't I? Let's eat right, avoid the fast food. But how can you help? Let's remember that their diagnosis doesn't define them, and it doesn't define you. Okay. um, that we're still going to love you as an individual, and we're going to care for you, and we're going to learn how to figure out what works and what doesn't work so we can come alongside. I want you to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. I was talking with a woman today, and she found herself in a tug of war verbally with this woman who definitely had brain change. And I said, oh, we're going to have to practice that, because people this particular woman had no short-term memory, but I said, somehow she'll remember how you make her feel. So they won't remember all the words that we use, but they remember how we make them feel. And we don't want to damage the relationship with this person. Um, we want to make sure we're mending that and keeping that in um in good health. And so it's so important that you can let things go and accept and agree. And remember, validate, de-escalate, and then redirect. Be part of the solution. I don't want them to see you and all of a sudden have this sensation or this feeling that, they don't get along with you. I don't want that to happen to you. So we're going to have to practice. Okay. Let's go back to the slides. Be grace givers, okay, for yourself and to others. This is a hard job, caring for someone or actually living it yourself. And some people have awareness. They know they have dementia. They're sad. They're tearful. It can be depressing. And then some people don't even know they have it. And it's all your fault anyway. And they're always the victim. But it can be difficult to care for them too because they're always right. And they don't think they need any help. They don't need your blankety blank help. Okay. They don't need that. And so we're going to have to be grace givers for everybody. Keep an open mind. And I want you just to continue to learn, plug in. And it's about bringing them joy in the moment. And let's just think about that. Let's just deal with this moment. I know you want to think this is 5, 10 years, whatever. I want you to deal with the moment right now. Let's plan well. Let's bring help in when we need it. Let's keep educating ourselves, but let's be grace givers to you and the people around you and the person living with this. If we're struggling, think about how they're struggling and they're doing the best they can with what they have left. My name's Teresa Youngstrom. I'm here to help. I hope you will check out the rest of our podcast. We're a better approach to memory care. And keep in mind, you got this.